So first, obviously, we know you're a phone case manufacturer.
Yeah.
And you started in 2013 with
Yeah.
£250 each,
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah, that's
So-
how I started, yeah.
So first, tell me just any information that really isn't on the website. Anything that you
Right.
have.
Maybe it's a bit better just to go through the sort of a bit of the background and then sort of build it up from there if you want to try and keep it as succinct as we can for you.
Yeah.
But basically, as you know, it started in 2000 and we started the business in 2013. But William and I were met back in 2002 when we both joined the police, because we both used to be police officers before we did this, and that's where we first met. And we always kind of had an interest for tech and that sort of thing. And it was around about the time when the first iPhone came out, probably the second, third generations of those iPhones, when they were becoming more readily available to across all the sort of networks. When I got my first iPhone, Billy got his, and we really liked them, but you could never really get a case for them that was very good. You either got a very cheap case, or you had to spend a lot of money and get a one that was, say, made by Apple, that was very expensive. And it kind of was an idea that developed over quite a short space of time, where we thought, everyone's got phones, everyone's got these new iPhones, everyone's into this now. We need a case for this, we can't get one. Let's design our own and make one case. And that's where that £250 sort of initial investment idea came from, and that's where the whole business grew from there. And at the time we were working in the police, and it was a case we started with £500 and we saw some leather because we were keen to make them. We were policemen at the time, we were both detectives, so it was a kind of, we used to wear suits to go to work. You wanted something that was a smart accessory that would go with your phone. And at the time it was either a plastic bumper case or you could get leather cases, but they were dead expensive. And you couldn't only going to pay like 60, 70 quid for a phone case. I wanted something that was a lot cheaper but at a good price point, but still good quality. And we saw some leather from Italy. We found a manufacturer, and we made our first run of cases, and we kept some for ourselves, we gave some away, and then we sold some. Initially it was just sold them on eBay, and they were sold really quick. So we took the money from that and rolled it over, and then made some more, made 200 next time, and then rolled it over again, made 400, and that's how it grew from there. And then up to 2013, that was at the point, the approach to that point was when the business was growing in such a way. It was a case of, we're both police officers. It was, do we continue being police officers and shelve this, or do we push on and take the opportunity with both hands, jump in and make a go of it? Because my view is that was an opportunity. Those type of opportunities you get twice in your life, and you either take them or you don't. And that's what led to the start. That's what led to the start of the business. Yeah.
All right. So obviously, like, you've kind of sort of answered the second question. So like, what? So I can see that you wanted. So the reason why you started your business was out of the interest of technology and the fact that you wanted an accessory that fit in the.
Yes.
Yeah. I think what's important is, at that time, the devices themselves were becoming more expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can remember this far back, but when mobile phones first kicked off, when we were 18, 19 and everyone, they were very plastic, heavy duty things that if you dropped, they would bounce anyway, they wouldn't break. So it was a real evolution of a marketplace that didn't exist before, because no one had cases and covers for mobile phones. A few years previous to this, nobody had mobile phones. And like Michael said, as they became more expensive, there was a much greater concern in amongst our friendship group at work, whereby you'd sit in the office and there'd be multiple people coming in going, I've got this new cover for the latest iPhone, I've got this new cover, and we'd have a bit of a debate where we'd look at them and go, well, that's good, I like this part of it, I don't like this part of it. Or someone come in with a nice case and it's like Mike says, it was 120 quid. So it really was something that we were very passionate about, because we were into the technology, and we were the customers, and it was a marketplace, like I say, that didn't exist before, that we fit into the category of customer, and it was a case of, right, if it's not out there, let's do it.
The other thing was as well, you used to get a mobile phone contract for 12 months. You never had to pay anything up front, and you could change your phone every year. So looking after your phone before iPhone and before the Samsung Galaxy.
But they never used to last any longer.
They weren't bothered because you could
The battery
you
life
get rid
would
of
never
it
last
after
longer than 10
once you had
months.
it, you were always looking at you could change your phone every year. And then all of a sudden iPhone came out and you were on 18-month contract, and now it's 24-month contract. And drop your phone, smash the screen. The new the iPhone X that's out now. If you drop that, replace the back of the phone is 500 quid. The screen's 300 quid. So you drop it, break both sides of it. You could may as well throw it in the bin.
It's worth protecting.
It's worth protecting it, and that's sort of that's something that's gone hand in hand with the growth of our business. As Billy says, it's the increase in the cost and the value of these items.
Yeah. Right, yeah. It's I suppose more
It's
like
more,
more like an investment now than anything.
Kind of, they're getting that way. Yeah, they're getting that way.
So the last my question: in what way is your business unique to other online providers of mobile accessories?
I think we sit in a, as I alluded to in the first question, I think it's the quality, the price point that we sit at, and we're a UK company, and we value our customers, and the customer service is something that we think it's vitally important. It's something that we give, it's top of the list. Our price point's good, it's competitive. Our product quality is good. We use genuine leather. A lot of companies who make phone cases don't use genuine leather. They use PU, polyurethane. We don't. We've made a conscious decision from the start that we'd use genuine leather, and we'll stick to that.
I think it goes back to what we said earlier about us being the customer, and because we hit this market at the inception of the whole inception of this particular marketplace and this type of product, and because we knew what we needed out of the product so well, that we've always, the whole ethos of the company is that we make products that we want to use that fit in our lifestyles, because we know that our audience and the customer base are people who are just like us. It was the people who were going out to work, didn't want to spend a fortune on a phone case, but wanted something that was nice, and then they wanted something that was functional, and they cared about the device that they were protecting, about the functionality of the device, and we've never lost that. And even now, we work closely with customers to get feedback in terms of what they want to see in new products. And what we find is when we release new models and versions of different cases and covers or other products, very quickly, the competitors who came after us, they just follow what we do. And that tends to be the same thing now that keeps us apart from the rest, is that we constantly evolve the product and then make improvements, and the competition tends to follow on whatever it is we do, because again, we're making the products that we want to use that fit into our. We're not just churning out a new style. It's what we want. Or what our customers say they want.
Yeah.
Can you give us a timeline of events of setting up your business?
Starting your first year.
Yeah, your first year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Michael and I had the idea in 2013. It was the very end of 2013, and because it was just a bit of a hobby trying to create products that we wanted, we didn't really get the first batch of manufacturing done until around about February, March time, and then by the time we sold them, then decided what we could do is we ticked it off what we wanted to do, which was create a case that we wanted, give the rest away. The decision at that point was we'll put the money that we've earned from those sales back into the pot and make 250, which we did. And then that timeline very quickly resulted in, at the end of 2014 in the November, we added a couple of different models in terms of different handset variations for the style of case that we're making, and it was become so time consuming that the decision we had to make was either stop what we're doing, because we had very responsible, serious jobs, or we'll go 2 foot in and see what we'll make of it. So in 2014 we quit the day job, started doing it full time. In the following March we set up our first premises, grew out of that later in the year. We've moved about 3 or 4 times since. And then 2016 was a big year. We turned over that year around about 1.4, was it 1.5 million? Now in 2017 we won the North East Business Awards for Best New Business, and we're on target for about 2 million this year, with next year looking even brighter. So it's been
There's a lot of progression.
a lot of progression, a lot of growth. We're in 2016 again, that was a big year because we started exporting to Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and that really had a massive impact on the turnover because we were reaching much larger audiences.
I think the benefit of it is it's a universal product. The iPhone exists across, as Billy says, every country where iPhones are retailed, or Samsung Galaxies are retailed, or any handset that we do a case for, you can copy the business model across into that country. It's the same.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
Doesn't change. It's the same. And the world's a smaller place. You can ship to all these countries very easily now. And in times gone by, you couldn't do that, but you can now. There's mechanisms in place to allow you to do that, and it's
but also sticking to our core values.
Yeah.
What's important is that in different territories, even down to
colours and
different cultures in countries of customers in terms of what they want from the products changes massively. But in order to cater for that, we've now got German, French speaking staff who can deal with the customers in the same way as we do with our customers in the UK, just so we can have the continuity and the level of service that we want all Toro customers to receive.
And what's your favourite part about owning your own business?
I suppose it's not having it's being in control and being able to set your own path, I would say. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think when we're in the police force, it's very regimental. It's rank and file. You do what you're told, and you can have your own opinions, and sometimes that's well received, sometimes it's not. The systems that need to be followed. I think what's good about running your own business is that you really open yourself up to be as free innovation wise as you possibly can. You know, we didn't have formal business educations. We've learned what we do through intuition and trial and error, and doing what our guts say is the right thing to do, and having that level of freedom to make decisions based on what you believe is the right thing to do is quite a unique vocational experience, because we're not following any preset models. We don't look at any academic sort of pathways in terms of processes and implementing practices into what we do from a business point of view. Yes, we listen to experts in their fields who can offer advice and support and guidance, but you're very much the master of your own destiny in terms of your decision making on what you think. There's a very famous quote that Steve Jobs once said, and it's always about following where the puck is going and not where it's been. And I think by being in an entrepreneurial role, you very much get the opportunity to test that theory out in practice, to always be looking ahead as to where things are going and shape the decisions of your business around where your vision is of where your company can go.
And the last one is, what are the most important factors do you think are turning a small business into a global company?
I would say that it's you don't have to change a great deal about what you do. You've just got to be able to manage it in terms of scaling it up. So if you've got a successful business model, say in the UK, say you've got a business model in the UK and you want to transcend that across to Germany, make sure you know your marketplace. Take what works in one place and look at how you can implement that elsewhere, and make sure you do it in the same way, but take into account the differences in your consumer and your customer, as Billy mentioned before. And there's no reason why you can't do it, but you just need to know your marketplace, and that's what and you've got to have processes in place to allow you to be able to fulfill your you know, if you're selling, say, a tangible product, you've got to make sure you can get it to the customer. Basically, how are you going to do it? You've got to plan it out. And if it means partnering with other agencies agencies that do it, say Amazon for example, then you can you do things like that. It's probably something that it's difficult to do as a small business because you don't have sort of import-export departments within your company. It's going to be something you're going to have to learn and do yourself, and it's something that you're not going to know a great deal about, so you're going to have to take advice from other people or partner with other agencies to do it because you're not going to be able to do it all yourself.
Yeah, I think that what Michael's talking about there is aligning yourself with experts in whatever department that it is, so you always, rather than settle for one business model. We always talk about a time when we're in a taxi, we're going to a business meeting, and the taxi driver mentioned that he used to run his own business and he used to repair fax machines, and he said he had a good business, he was always ticking along, it was great, employed a lot of staff, had good turnover, and then all of a sudden one day the phone stopped ringing and people didn't want the fax machines being repaired anymore because obviously the world had moved to email, and he lost his business. And I think if you've got a business that's doing well, you've always got to you never rest on your laurels and think, okay, like when Michael and I were doing well in the UK, we've got a good little business in the UK, it's all working fine. What we did, and what we would always encourage other people to do, is always look at where the new opportunities are coming from and where the landscape's changing. And for us, back in 2012, 2013, if people were going to set up a little bit of an e-commerce business, which is what ours was at the start, people naturally would go to eBay. No one would ever really think about Amazon because it wasn't a recognised affiliate selling website. It was, you bought off Amazon.
You bought books.
You bought books and you bought CDs. Or people might try and set up their own website, but then you have a problem with driving traffic. And we were constantly looking for the most effective ways of getting our products. We knew people liked them. The feedback was overwhelming of how much people actually like the product, so how do we get in front of as many people? And we explored many different things, and Amazon was one of the new emerging marketplaces that some people could have just written off and said, that's for books and CDs. No one's going to go on that. And what it turned out to be, they were pioneers of global expansion for UK businesses with their fulfillment network. And by taking those chances in our business and directing ourselves in new and exciting, fresh ways, from an export point of view, it's been exceptional.
You can't do it all yourself, I think, the answer to that. You have to get help from other people. In our case, it was Amazon.
What's the most important part about being an entrepreneur?
I think Billy answered. I think you just answered that, and that's it. It's about sort of not resting on your laurels and always looking forward and making sure that you're not stale and you're not sort of you're not just well, it's good at the minute. This is great. It's good at the minute. So let's just carry on with what we're doing and not try and do anything different. It's always about trying to sort of push it forward and keep going and develop your business in a good way, and not sit back and think, well, this is great now. I've made it because I've got an office and that's it.
I think
for me. I'm not doing it off your kitchen table. I'm now in an office.
There's two things for me. It's always asking why. When I worked in the police force, the biggest frustration I had was if you said, so why is it that we do this? And if the answer was, this is the way we've always done it, that kills any type of progression, that attitude. And in large corporations, that sneaks in, and people start taking things for granted, methods of how they operate. And quite often, if you go into any big organisation, and I dare say it would probably happen in here if you ask certain questions, because it creeps in all the time. Why do you do something the way it is? And if you constantly look at everything that you do on a daily basis and think, right, why is it that I'm actually doing this? Is there a more effective or efficient way of doing it? And you're in that mindset all the time, you're constantly challenging your own behaviours and working practices, then the byproduct of that is you'll think, well, there's actually no point in doing this is a waste of time, or there's a better way of doing it.
Well, the byproduct of that's innovation, isn't it? And sort of progression, and that's what it's all about.
And then the second strand of, in my opinion, of that is that you can always do better. Yeah. Always do better. All the great entrepreneurs would not settle for second best. I mentioned Steve Jobs before. People like Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos at Amazon, Phil Knight, who started Nike. It's all people who could have had nice little businesses wrapped up that was doing well. And like we said before, and rested on the laurels and thought, right, I've made some decent money out of it, I've got a decent little business, that's the end of it. But they never did. It was all people who wanted perfection and strived to achieve that by going forward.
The best of whatever they did.
And you know, we like to think that we've got that here in our, we're never going to change the world with casing covers for mobile devices, but you never know, one day that might lead on to something that might.
Yeah.
And as long as we can go to bed at night knowing that everything that we do is to the highest standard that we can possibly do it within the parameters that we work in, and that we're always pushing those parameters to do better, then we'll go to bed happy.
What hurdles did you have to overcome? Was there any competition to get to where you are now?
Well, we're in a very the products that we sell aren't unique per se. If you go on Amazon and have a look, there's hundreds of thousands of people selling similar products. So it's about your brand. From our point of view, it was always about, we always felt that we had a strong brand, and when we came up with the branding for the product, we felt that it fitted with the materials we were using and how we envisaged it was going to look. The branding we felt was strong, the logo was strong, and that was something in the early days that helped us to stand out, and it helped us to be seen above other people who were making similar sort of products. And in the early days, when you don't have a presence and you don't really got a website, if you Google, when you're a young company and you type your name into Google, you don't come up. There's nothing there. So how do you put yourself in front of customers, and how do you get your message across to people? And that is a challenge at first, but it's always a challenge. But initially it's a critical challenge, because if you don't get yourself in front of customers, you're not going to sell any products. No matter how good it is, you can't get it to people. How are you going to sell it?
I think every stage of the business has been a hurdle, and it goes back to the fact that nobody showed us what to do.
Yeah.
Nobody said this is the pathway to follow. From initially setting up a brand, how do you register that from an intellectual property point of view? That was a hurdle. We didn't have the first clue on how to do that. But you align yourself to experts, and you take advice, and then you use your own intuition and your own gut feelings as to what you think's right, and you've got to trust in that it's going to see you through. And then when it comes to VAT and accounting, when the business hit a point where we hit that threshold, that's a hurdle. We were police officers, we didn't have the first clue about it. How do you arrange global distribution of high volumes of product? That's a hurdle.
What happens if you sell a product in America and you've got to pay tax, sales tax, and things like that? You don't know about these things. It's very easy to sell a product across the world, but to comply with the regulations and to do it properly is a lot more difficult. You could list anything you wanted on Amazon.com and sell it to an American consumer. Does anybody have the first clue about paying sales tax in the relevant states, paying levels of corporation tax in America, whether you can claim it back, import duties into the States, claiming back import duties from the UK and then exporting the products to America? It's a minefield. And that's what I was touching on before, when in the past, if a company was going to grow internationally, they'd generally be quite an established company in the UK first, so they'd have departments of staff who would be looking at these things, and they would develop expertise in these areas. When nowadays, because the world's a much smaller place, you can sell internationally but be quite a small company like us, and all of a sudden if you become successful in, say, Germany, and then you hit VAT thresholds in Germany, you've suddenly got to be registering to pay VAT in Germany, and the VAT rates are different. If you want to ring the VAT office in Germany, you've got to be able to speak German. And you start hitting all these hurdles that bigger companies would simply just employ a team of staff to deal with. And
the bigger you get, the more of these problems appear, and all of a sudden you realise that what you started the business to do, which was to create great products, then slowly becomes like an effort to find the time to do what it is that you need to do.
So you sort everything else.
Because then you've got to deal with taking on premises, you've got to deal with taking on staff, then you've got health and safety issues around having staff, you've got HR responsibility. So I think that the key message to take away is, if you are an entrepreneur with a great product idea, that's fantastic and that's a good starting point. But be prepared that if you achieve your desired goals, which is success, you've got to be willing to adapt and learn a hell of a lot about the administrative side of how business operates, and don't just think that it's going to be a case of creating great products, selling them, making a load of money and happy days. There's a lot behind the scenes that goes into even a small business.
If you're going to do it right. If you're going to do it properly, yeah.
My final question is, what do you think in terms of skills and qualities would we need to start our own business?
I think you need to be very passionate about what it is that you're going to start a business about, because if you're not, then 2 years down the line, when all of the bureaucratic processes that we've just mentioned come into force, your enthusiasm will wane very quickly if the actual crux of your business isn't something that you're inherently interested in.
I definitely think that's the most important thing, because you'll want it. So if you're doing something you believe in and you're generally interested in, you'll want to continue it. If it's something that you're just doing because you've got to do it, you'll get bored of it. You'll not give it 100%. And if you don't give it 100%, it's a waste of time.
And then the other skills that I think are important are being open to opportunity to meet new people. Even what we're doing now, who knows, years down the line, paths cross, you meet people again in the future, and opportunities will develop. They call it serendipity, but really you make your own luck in terms of where you place yourself, in terms of connections and networking that you do and people you meet. So being prepared to get your face out there and meeting people, I think, is important, and having a very adaptable attitude where you're willing to switch and pivot at any moment and be open to challenges. If you're the type of person who likes to be very organised and steady and know what you're going to be doing in 6 months' time to the letter, then maybe a career like this wouldn't be for you. If you're the type of person who's willing to get up in the morning and change everything at a moment's notice, because things in the business landscape have shifted a little bit, and that might involve being prepared to work 72 hours straight, then that's what you've got to do.
Was it scary starting a business with so little money and quitting your day jobs?
Oh, it definitely was. Probably one of the best and worst days of my life was when we left, because I've got a young family, so is Billy, and if you quit a job where you're pretty much guaranteed to get paid every month and you're guaranteed no one's going to sack you unless you do something wrong, it's it was very difficult, but at the same time, I think in your heart when something's the right thing to do, and that was the right thing to do, and you've always got to grab opportunity with both hands and don't let things slip through your fingers. If there's an opportunity there, do it, because you've only got one life, and you don't want to look back regretting something that you didn't do.
I wholeheartedly agree with Michael. We had good jobs, we're doing well in our professions. We're both detectives and we had good career paths ahead. You had good pension prospects and everything like that. I think in life you'll meet a lot of people who will make excuses, and they'll say, I've got great ideas, but you know what it is, if only I didn't have the mortgage payments, or but I've got kids so I can't do it. People always like to talk about the ideas that they've got, but they're always then back it up with the excuse as to why they're not prepared to do something. And I don't mind saying the day that we left, I remember it well. There was still a few people in that job, including some of my who were saying, are you really doing this? You're really going to leave? And I was like, yeah, I made my decision. This is what I want to do. And I had a nice send-off at the police station. I walked out, had handed me badge back in and me keys and all the rest of it. And I sat in the car and I just burst into tears, thinking, am I so irresponsible that I've just thrown this career away? I've got a mortgage, family. It was the most gut-wrenching, terrifying thing I've ever done. But you only do these things when there's still a voice inside going, this is right though. You can do this. because, like Michael says, we believed in it and we knew we could make a success of it. We have done, and you know, we're living proof of the fact that if you really believe that you have a calling and you feel stuck in a rut and that you don't think that that's what you're about, it might be frightening. In fact, it is terrifying, but you can do it.
I think you've already touched on it, but what advice would you give to people who have little money to start up a business but they have a good idea?
I don't think you need a great deal of money to get you to start the ball rolling with your idea, with your business idea, or what it is that you want to do. I suppose it depends on what the idea is, but you know, Billy and I, we never looked for any sort of external investment in what we're going to do, and we've always kept it in house, and that's still the case today. But there are opportunities out there for people to get investment in young businesses and young startups, but it's not something that Billy or I can give any sort of advice on, because we've always looked at this as being something that we wanted to keep completely in house for now. But I don't think you need a great deal of money to start a business. We started with £500. It depends how quickly you want to grow it. The advantage we had was we already had jobs, so we already had an income, so we could do it it was something you could do on the side, and it started off with a couple of hours on an evening every night, and it grew and grew and grew. I suppose people who aren't already employed might not have that luxury, so I appreciate that our situation was advantageous to us, having a small amount of money, because we already had an income from a job. It's difficult. It would be very difficult to start with very little money.
My advice would be, there's a lot of support, there's a lot of European and domestic funding for new business startups, and you know, we had no idea about this when we started out, so we never got involved in any of it. But as we've grown into the business community and getting to know a lot of people who are entrepreneurs in the Northeast, they have had a bit of help and support along the way. So if you've got a great business idea, and a lot of people, sometimes we meet people who've got great business ideas and they're very new to entrepreneurship, and they don't want to tell you what their idea is because they're worried that you're going to go and steal it. Now, that could happen. We wouldn't do that because we're decent, honest people, and most people that we've met are as well, and would just offer somebody decent advice. But go and see people like the Chamber of Commerce and say, oh, we've got an idea for a business, but we don't know where to go with it. We don't know. We can't scale it up, but we think it's got value. And you know, they aren't going to steal your idea. There is government-funded agencies who will support you and point you in the right directions, even if it's just giving you a bit of advice, saying these are some people who would be worth speaking to, who might be able to help. If it's funding that you need, maybe it's just some support in growing your business or a bit of mentorship, and it might be worthwhile getting to sign an NDA. Little bits of advice like that, which will give you the confidence then to come and sit down with somebody, get them to sign a disclosure agreement, and then say, right, this is my business. Either I'm looking for some investment or I'm looking for some support.
But you don't need a lot of money to start it. You could. It depends on what it is. But if it's if it's retail products, you just need enough to buy your first lot of stock. And you need a little bit of knowledge on how to on if it's going to be online, how to set your website up. A little bit of knowledge can go a long way, and you can teach yourself a lot of things on the job.
I think the final thing I would say on that point is most people in the business community have been where the person is who's at the start themselves. Some people obviously inherit businesses or take on growing concerns, but most people, they've been at the start themselves, and they know what it's like. And I've certainly put my hands up to say, having been on this journey, if someone ever came to me and said, look, this is what I want to do, I would be very open to giving all the support I could, because I know how hard it is.
What qualities do you look for when hiring staff?
I think when you're a small company, when you're bringing staff in, it's vitally important you bring the right people in, because in a larger, say it was a large office with 30, 40 people in there, if you brought the wrong person in by mistake, you can carry them. It can be something that doesn't affect the whole office per se. When you're a small office of only a few people, you bring the wrong person in, it can be like throwing a hand grenade in the office, because there's only Billy, myself, and another 3 people working next door for when Scott's here. So it's about making sure that you bring people in who share your passion for what you're trying to do and the values that you're trying to instill in your business. You want people who are aligned with you in your thought process, and it doesn't matter how good they are at the job or how good the CV looks. If when you speak to them they're not right. Don't settle for somebody who you're not going to be able to sort of work alongside and who's going to help you drive your business forward and grow your business, because if you bring the wrong person in, you may as well just flush your money down the toilet.
I think no one's going to care about your business as much as you do.
No.
Well, if you can find somebody who does, then
And that's great.
you're very lucky. Hold on to them and never let them go.
Yeah.
So it's about getting as close to that as you possibly can, because ultimately when you bring staff in, it's their job at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's not their company. So the real hard part is making people feel as included, that it is, you know, they are responsible for the growth of the business and that they're part of the whole journey themselves, and getting people to buy into what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve and feel personally involved and responsible for it.
Which is
that's where you've got to take it, and it's when you talk about hurdles and learning points in your own business, this is one of them for us. It's to try and build a team of good people who feel passionate about where the brand and the company's going and want to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I know you were saying earlier about the big risk of leaving your job, but are there any risks, like big risks you would have taken since you actually started the company?
Do you mean just in general?
Like generally, like since you've started, is there anything big decisions you've had to make that were almost make or break, kind of?
One of the, I'm just trying to think.
Okay, touch wood. Nothing's been make or break for us so far. But a big decision, I think, is managing growth. We could, if we wanted to, probably maybe added 30% to our output. But by doing that, I think we would have ran the risk of losing control of what we're trying to achieve and what the core values are. Now, when we found that from an export point of view, we could grow into all these marketplaces really, really quick, we could have probably doubled our output in terms of the amount of opportunity that's out there by just going, right, these are the countries, let's just go in all of these territories, all of the products just go. But there's no way we could put our hands on our heart and say we could have offered those customers the same level of service that we aspire to do and control the quality of the product in the same level that we do. And I think some people would have taken the chance of saying, you're going to double turnover, just do it. And the big decision for us was, and it could have been the wrong one, still might have been the wrong one, is to say, no, we're not. Even though there's huge potential for growth, we're going to put the brake on here, consolidate our position, and make sure that we grow in the correct way. And that might be detrimental to the company in the long run. We're yet to see, because in business, early bird catches the worm. If you catch a marketplace early, brand gets out there, people know you. But we wanted to stay true to the ethos and values of the company.
Is there anything you would do differently if you went back, say a few years, maybe after a year, or even when you're starting it? If you go back, would there be anything new?
I don't know. It's a difficult one.
I don't think I would have done a great deal different.
I don't either, really.
I think.
So do you think you've planned it out really well then?
I don't think it's been planned out really well. I think again it's down to the intuition. It's about taking every day one step at a time and not trying to second guess. Obviously we'll have strategy in terms of where we want to be, and where the direction we want to take the business in. But every day we sit down and talk about today, what is happening today and what happened yesterday and how can that impact tomorrow. That's how short term some of our outlook is in terms of the decisions that we make. whilst keeping in mind that we do have a longer term strategy of what we want to achieve in, say, 1 year and 5 years' time in the business. And we do that because, particularly being an e-commerce global business, politically things change every day. That affects interest rates, which affects currency fluctuations, which can have a massive effect on the decisions we've got to make to take the business forward. So in answer to your question about doing things differently, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say we've done everything perfectly, because I've got no doubt that we haven't done everything perfectly. But what we have done has seen us well thus far, and we don't really. Well, I'm speaking for both of us here, but I don't think we have any.
I don't think I can think of a thing offhand, a massive thing offhand that would do differently.